Welcome to Your Key to Real Estate. I'm Shannon Kriska, your host and realtor, and today I have a very special guest with me. Welcome, Frank. This is Frank Spencer.
Thank you, Shannon.
Frank has been in the real estate industry for over 22 years, so I thought it would be great to have you as a guest. You have a lot of experience with the market going up and down, and what would you say to people watching who may not know a lot about real estate of what is the real estate market and why does it fluctuate and where is it today?
That's not an easy answer, but I'll give you the best I can. I can tell you that the real estate market right now is stable and it's inventory driven. Typically, we would see probably 6-7 months in a typical market of inventory, and we're about a month and a half of inventory, sometimes two. That lack of inventory has created a competitive relationship between the buyer and the seller.
Now, when we're talking about inventory, you're talking about homes
houses
on the
available
market
for sale. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Has created a competitive nature buyer to buyer, and sellers are leveraging that position. Today, Monrovia is seeing itself in Southern California in general in a pretty well entrenched sellers market. Sellers get to dictate a lot of terms of the sale. We're in a more neutral market or a buyer's market. That might not be the case.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about terms of the sale, if someone is listing their home, what are some of those things as far as what does that mean? Well,
in a buyer's market, for an example, buyer might say, "Hey, I need you to pay closing cost, escrow, title, that sort of thing. I need you to contribute to my down payment. I need you to give me the BMW in the garage." Anything like that.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Some of those big homes in Beverly Hills are like the Ferrari goes with the house.
Absolutely, it incentivizes the transaction for the buyer. However, in a market like this, the seller can say no to those things and not be afraid of losing a buyer that they might otherwise lose. There's going to be more there. Typically, in a market like this, we see the competition fuel the buyer to make sometimes silly decisions, like buying a house that is worth less than they're willing to pay for, and waiving appraisal and coming in with additional cash. And if the deal makes sense for the buyer, it could be a good deal. There's never a bad time to buy or sell a house. Unfortunately, there are terrible times to sell homes, and as long as you can afford the house, there's no bad time to buy. Real estate is, today's a great day to buy. You want to go buy something?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of just buying something, so let's say someone already has a home, and in any type of real estate market, it's good to think about an investment. This is a great way to retire, to buy income property. What would you say to people out there to give them a little knowledge about income property and purchasing?
Well, the key concept with income property is that it cash flows. And by cash flow, I mean that it provides passive income to the household after paying the obligations, the mortgage, the interest, insurance, deferred maintenance, those sort of things. It still provides income to the home. There are two ways to accrue a positive cash flow. One would be to buy at the right time and get a super deal where you're buying below market value and rents are high. That's a timing thing, and it's very difficult to time market. More people lose money by trying to time the market than they do making it. And the other way is to buy your cash flow. So in other words, save up, have enough money to put down to allow you to structure with the rent market, allow you to structure a positive cash flow.
That's a great answer. Yeah, thank you. Because I know quite a few, especially realtors. One of our co-realtors just purchased an investment property because a lot of people don't have We don't get 401ks, and we don't get a lot of these things. We have to go out and produce our own retirement. So that's a really good way to get passive income.
Yeah, it's a tragedy of our industry that more real estate agents don't own investment properties, because it really is the single greatest determiner of wealth and vehicle towards wealth.
Because that's one thing, having that property, it's always going to go up at some point. You know, so if you're not going to retire in, let's say, 10 years or so, you know, there's a good chance, if the market stays strong, that you're going to have a nice, good income with properties that you would buy now.
Yeah. Right now the rental market is really, really thriving. And one of the indicators, when the rental market's thriving, you start to see more units being built, apartments being built. And that's really where the development is today in Southern California, is multi-units. And that'll tell you that rental market has a high demand for newer, cleaner, high efficiency properties, and the buyers are snapping them up, tenants are snapping them up.
Yeah, yeah, because the rents are a little higher now, aren't they? I mean, over the years, especially since we had a lot of foreclosures and people lost their homes, so we had a lot more renters, that the prices have just gone up.
Yeah, there's a little more to it than that. The large Wall Street REITs, real estate investment trusts, came in at some point in about 2011. You could buy a home for less than you could build the same home for. And they were buying 1,400 homes a month, every single month. And they were cash buyers paying 15 to 20% above market value at the time. And they bought those homes so that they could take them, hold them for 4 or 5 years, and make them rental properties, positive cash flow, so that they could then take those packages of properties and sell equity in them on Wall Street, very much like you would a Facebook launch, a public offering, IPO for any other stock entity.
Wow, that's really good information.
So they've taken a whole lot of our inventory away, and that's driving rental prices up. It's driving real estate prices up. It's created a I don't want to say a false sense, but it's created a market that's artificially driven. It was created artificially by some of the actions we took.
Wow. Well, if there's anyone out there right now who's thinking of buying or selling, what would be the best advice you could give them?
Do it now.
Yeah.
Do it now. The problem with timing the market is twofold. One, if I wait so that I can make another $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 on the sale of my home, and I'm going to buy another home, I'm going to pay a like number. If I'm moving up, let's say a value. I'm selling a home for $200,000, and if I wait just 6 months, I'm pretty confident I can get another $20,000. So that's a 10% increase. Market price went up 10%. If I'm going to buy a $400,000 home now, I'm going to pay a 10% increase on that. So that $400,000 home now is going to cost me $440,000. So I really lose trading equity that way. I really lose by not buying sooner, selling sooner.
Right.
If I'm selling to liquidate and get out of the state or out of home ownership, period, then I might hold on a little bit because prices are going to go up. But if I'm going to sell and reinvest, I'm going to make sure that I do it sooner rather than later, because it's going to hurt me on the purchase side.
I've found something, because you and I had been talking about architecture, like how beautiful so much of the architecture is in Arcadia and Monrovia. So tell us a little bit about how you started to notice all the diversity and how beautiful some of the property was.
Well, it's really kind of funny. I've spent the last 35 years driving to somewhere through Arcadia and Monrovia. Never knew the beauty, the architecture, the depth, the history that the community had to offer until I came to town to run this office that I run today. And I started a little 5K club at the office, and we go out and we walk twice a week, and we do 3 or 4 miles. And I started going by these houses, and everyone was unique. Might be a Spanish style, might be a Mediterranean style, might have alpine hints. I mean, it just, I saw a couple of adobes. It's just incredible, the diversity of the architecture. And I started shooting pictures and putting them up on Facebook, and my friends over in the Inland Empire saying, oh my God, they never knew it existed. And that's when I really knew that I was sitting in a very special place. I have to tell you, you and I had dinner with your mom at an office event, and she gave me a book, which really touched my heart. She wrote a nice little phrase in there, and the book highlights some of the historic homes across the country, but then it has a story from the house's perspective. And I just absolutely love the book, and that got me looking at houses. And until I came to work here in this community, I thought Craftsman was a wrench. And I have a whole drawer full of them. But these houses are incredible, and I'm in love with the community.
Yeah, that you know, as for the office that you run, and you being one of my mentors, I think when you started telling everyone about the architect and all of that, it was really made everyone kind of start seeing real estate on a much more personal level. And then talking about the book, Believe Walls Can Talk, or Do Talk, Believe Walls Do Talk. You know, it really does. People, we all love our homes. You know, we have an attachment. And that's why so many times I found, too, working with my sellers, sometimes I'll take them out to see like homes, because we value our homes so much because we love them. And sometimes it's a little bit more than what the market can hold, you know. But it's, and the story, yeah, if the houses could actually tell stories about us.
Well, and the thing about a house is, from a pragmatic standpoint, we want to make it a business, but it's not a business. It's where we raise our kids. It's where we develop our sense of adulthood and purpose, and our lives are fully intertwined with our homes, and a lot of our identity is tied up in those homes. So the home you live in can never be a business. It's so much more.
Yeah, I don't care who you talk to, whether it was good experience or bad experience. If you drive by your childhood home, the home that you were raised in, you know, it's going to bring up emotion, and hopefully good emotion. But, you know, there's always all the things we remember, and being raised and sitting on the front porch, or the Christmas tree, or the window we kicked the kickball through.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, those homes always take us back to a special time or a special place. And it's funny, we tend to typically remember the good times. And sort of like a favorite song you hear, and it takes you to a beach in some far off corner. Very much the same thing.
Well, they say our highest sense is our scent, and I think most of us remember grandma cooking in the kitchen, like cookies, or Thanksgiving. So it still relates back to the strongest memories being a home. Yeah,
my wife's an amazing cook, I have to tell you, but every time I tell her that's not the way my grandmother did it. She's a black belt, by the way. I usually pay a price. So.
You probably don't say that often then, I'm guessing. But now you put together a really nice little YouTube film of the homes in Monrovia and a few in Arcadia. If our viewers want to watch that, where would they go? What would the website? What is your YouTube channel?
You know, I honestly don't know. It's on my YouTube channel.
Would it be Frank Spencer, or?
I honestly don't know. If they Googled Frank Spencer, they could pull it up. Sure.
Great. And two, everyone knows we have a Facebook page, and if you have any questions for Frank, or we can probably later on check the Facebook page, Your Key to Real Estate TV. And I'll post that later, because it's you did such a great job on all the different homes, and who knows, your home may be in the video. It's really pretty. It's really sweet. So yeah, it gives it a sense of community and a sense of love for our homes.
Well, it's funny, as I was shooting the pictures, we were walking through the neighborhoods, and as I was shooting the pictures, I would post them instantly on Facebook. and invariably somebody would text and say, oh, that's over on Myrtle Street, or oh, that's over here, or that's over there. The community was reacting almost as quickly as I could put the pages up, or the pictures up. They were reacting to so I hit a chord with it, I think.
That's wonderful, yeah. When I was watching it, I remember, oh, I walked by that one. I know where that one is. It was nice. We have such a good relationship to neighborhoods and property and homes, and so now I have on our Facebook page, I asked people to ask of any questions, and let me see if, let's see, I guess gosh, we've already covered a lot of their questions, because we had a question, how to help buyers. Susan wrote in, what would be the #1 thing on helping buyers purchase their first home?
I think today, in most areas other than possibly here, FHA is the vehicle. It's a subprime lender of our day, and really it's the rightful vehicle to help someone get in. You get in for about 3.5% down, and the credit requirements aren't nearly as restrictive as they are with a conventional loan. And they'll allow for combining incomes and stuff like that to make it a little more user friendly for the consumer to get into a home. But don't buy too much home early. The first home you get should be a stepping stone for you. And too often we buy the Mercedes and we buy the big luxurious home when what we really needed was a Honda and a place to lay our head.
Right. Right.
And so the home has to make sense. It has to be practical. It has to be functional, and it has to warm your soul.
And that too means also having being able to fix something up too, because if you have a little imagination and a little time, can you, with an FHA, can you get something that needs to be fixed, or are they stricter with?
It really depends. If it's a health and safety issue, it's probably something that's going to have to be addressed. If it's aesthetic in nature, then it's not quite the same. And I always tell new first-time home buyers and first-time investors, look for the ugliest home in the best neighborhood you can possibly afford. Yeah. You're going to get the best deal, and you're going to benefit from the value that the other homes bring. Too often what we do is we say, no, I want to get a very, very nice home. So they buy the nicest home in the ugliest neighborhood, and they suffer by comparison. So look for an ugly home in a nice neighborhood, and you'll win every time.
Now, let me ask you, too. I had... let's see, that was Betty from Monrovia wrote in, and she wanted to know, because she had seen some signs, I guess, that said for sale by owner. Why should someone use a realtor? What are the benefits? Well,
according to the National Association of Realtors, a person who sells their own home sells it typically for 12 to 18% lower than a home that's sold by a realtor. Typical commission is anywhere from 5 to 6% when you use a realtor. So using a realtor really makes you money. It doesn't cost you money. And a realtor's job, everyone thinks our job is to sell the home. Realtor's job really is risk mitigation, loss mitigation, and we do that by making sure that the sellers meet all the terms of the contract. They disclose the things that they're supposed to disclose, and are required by law whether they sell it themselves or not, and ignorance is no excuse. But also to make sure that the buyers stay on task and that the buyers meet their obligations as well. So the stress of selling your home is amazing. And when you sell your home, we talked about it, you're selling a lifestyle, your history, so it can be quite emotional. So having a realtor as that intermediary, or a professional as that intermediary, is gonna help you make the decisions you need to make from an educated standpoint instead of an emotional standpoint.
Yeah, that is such good advice, because I know I've as a realtor, I've talked to some people about why they wanted to sell their own homes. And inevitably, you know, at some point, I would say within 30 days, they will hire a realtor. Usually, if they really realize all that it takes. It's the same thing we had talked about. If you have a buyer, if you're a buyer's agent, and a buyer's agent is not just someone who's driving people around with you know, with the internet and all the websites, they can actually almost find their own property, you know, and it's not for us to just let them into the property. It's really us taking care of them. And what did you say about that? Because I remember that was really good information.
Yeah, a couple things. First thing is that as an industry, I think the realtors feared the advent of the internet into our business, the infusion. We thought that it might lead us on a path of irrelevancy. Mm-hmm. And you're right, there's so much information out there right now today available for the consumer that it's just overwhelming and it's confusing. Mm-hmm. And so the realtor's role really becomes a consultant role to explain the nuances of the transaction, the process, what those disclosures mean, what the net impact of buying a home is going to be for you and your family from a financial standpoint. So our role is morphed into something else. We don't sell homes. Mm-hmm. We build lifestyles, and we're your consultant. So it's changed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as speaking of buyers too, it's so important that if anyone is wanting to purchase a home, that they get into someone, that they speak with someone to get pre-approved first. So they're not looking at $700,000 homes when all they're going to be pre-approved for is 4. They're going to be very disappointed. So what would you say about that?
Well, right now there's a lot of, especially in this community, a lot of Chinese money that's come in, and in order to compete with the cash buyer that's out there today, the stronger you are qualified, the better you're going to be, the more likely your offer is going to be accepted. Because at the end of the day, if I have a very well-qualified buyer and I have a cash buyer, it may very well be in my best interest to go with the well-qualified buyer because the money's going to be the same for me.
Right.
And too often with a cash buyer, you see it often in transactions. That cash buyer might tend to over leverage his position coming in with cash and extract more and than he might otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go back also, forgot where I was going.
With buyers being qualified and cash buyers being a little.
Yeah, you have to do everything up front if you're going to compete with a cash buyer today, and that means that you provide your taxes. That means that you provide bank statements, your verification of income, your verification of residency, so on and so forth. Document everything so that the only contingency in loan approval is that the house appraises, and you're done.
Right.
Now you're just as strong as a cash buyer, and I'm going to tell you, if I'm a buyer, I'm going to buy today. The disclosure laws for lenders are changing come August 1st. And when that happens, that typical deal that takes 35 days to close, it's going to take anywhere from 45 to 60 days, maybe more, because of the change in requirements for disclosure on the loans. It's meant to be a protection for the consumer. But I think the net effect is going to be that now even a well-qualified borrower is not going to be able to compete with a cash buyer. Right now, we can make the argument that they're very much the same, and in some instances, it's better for you to go with the borrower than it is the cash buyer. That may not be the case if I'm a seller who has to sell quickly and can't afford that extra 30, 45 days time in order to meet the disclosure requirements.
Why do you think they're doing that? I mean, as an industry, you know, we're recovered, but we've been through a lot, and it seems sometimes the government, all of it, it just hits us with things that just make it a little bit harder.
Yeah, in 2007, when the real estate market collapsed, there was no real driving factor that it should have collapsed. I think it was something like 26% of the buyers out there could still afford the median price home, even though homes were at record levels. And yet the market collapsed because the people who were buying weren't qualified. You just licked them on the head, stuck them against the wall, and if they were breathing, you gave them a loan.
Yeah.
I had janitors come in and tell me they made $300,000 a year, and they were buying $600,000 homes. We wouldn't show them homes. We didn't want to be part of the eventual disruption in the market, and it came, but there was no reason for it. So when the market collapsed, it collapsed because we lent to people who couldn't afford to buy homes, shouldn't buy a home, under the government theory that everyone should be able to own a home. Mm-hmm. That's not true. You should have to qualify. Mm-hmm. Right now, Congress is debating whether or not you should have higher down payment guidelines when you buy a home. And the number one most secure loan out there is a VA loan, and a buyer puts no money down in a typical VA transaction. But the buyer has to qualify, and the qualification guidelines are so rigid and so strict that those people don't walk away from their homes, and that's what we're seeing today. We're going to see some peaks and valleys in the market, and over the long haul for the next couple of years anyway. We see that overall trend line continuing to rise at about 3-4% a year. We'll see some spikes that may go a little bit higher and some valleys that bring it back down, but the average will be about that 3 or 4% a year. But those people aren't going to walk away from their home because they put money down and they qualified.
Well, that really makes this an exciting time to buy and to go out there and feel solid in purchasing a home. And you've been so great, and you've answered so many questions. We have a few minutes left. Actually a minute left? Is there any parting words?
Yeah. If you heard nothing else I said, I hope that you heard that it's never a bad time to buy a home. And the people that get in trouble because they buy more home than they can afford, or that is prudent from a business standpoint. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, you can buy a home anytime and feel comfortable that at some point in history the values will surpass what you owe.
That's great.
There can be a bad time to sell, and those are the people that get in trouble.
Exactly. Well, Frank, thank you so much for being on the show.
I really
today.
enjoyed it. Thanks.
It was wonderful having you. You'll have to come back again.
Absolutely.
And remember, if you have any questions, go to the Facebook page, Your Key to Real Estate TV. And until next time, give a smile to someone else.